Many believe a common myth. They think Jews only arrived in Palestine in 1948. This is quite far from the truth. A Jewish presence has always endured in this land. It existed long before the 20th century. This historical continuity is often overlooked by many. It is, however, truly vital to understanding our story. Jews clung fiercely to this ancestral land. They did so through many long ages of upheaval. Their roots here are both ancient and remarkably deep. This simple fact is the very beginning of our narrative. The mighty Roman legions destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem. They brutally exiled a great many Jewish people. Yet crucially, not all were driven away from their homes. Small but tenacious communities survived against the odds. They courageously rebuilt their shattered lives. They continued to pray with fervor. They diligently studied their sacred texts. The land itself remained absolutely central to Jewish identity. This powerful connection held true even for those scattered in the vast diaspora. The dream of return, of coming home, never truly faded away. During the long centuries of Ottoman rule, Jewish life persisted. It was certainly not always an easy existence. There were numerous, significant challenges to face. Economic hardships were common, restrictions were sometimes imposed. Yet through it all, these communities held on. They demonstrated incredible resilience. They found ingenious ways to sustain themselves and even thrive in their ancient homeland. The Ottomans governed this region for 400 years. Jewish presence was a constant, undeniable feature of the landscape throughout this extended period. 4 cities in particular held a special sacred status. Jerusalem, the eternal capital, was the heart of hearts. Tzfat, nestled in the Galilean hills, was a renowned city of mystics and Kabbalah. Tiberias, resting by the shores of the Sea of Galilee, was a center of learning. Hebron, the ancient city of the patriarchs and matriarchs, held deep biblical importance. These were revered as the 4 holy cities. Jewish communal and spiritual life was notably vibrant here. Scholars, rabbis, merchants, and artisans filled their narrow, winding lanes. They steadfastly maintained a living connection to the sacred traditions. Their deep-rooted presence was an undeniable part of the land's fabric. Long before Theodor Herzl articulated political Zionism, Jews were returning. This was not yet a coordinated modern political movement. It was often a quieter, more personal, and profoundly deeper pull. Religious devotion served as a powerful fuel for many of these returnees. They came with a singular purpose: to live and to die in the Holy Land. These early pre-Zionist Aliyah movements are deeply significant. They clearly demonstrate the continuous, unwavering draw of the land. This quiet stream of immigration occurred throughout the 1800s, slowly building a renewed presence. Pious Jews, driven by faith, began to arrive from various parts of Europe. Disciples of the revered Vilna Gaon made the arduous journey. Hasidic groups, inspired by their spiritual leaders, also undertook the voyage. They primarily sought spiritual fulfillment and closeness to God. They yearned to study sacred texts in their original setting. They aimed to live a life imbued with holiness. From distant Yemen too, Jews embarked on incredible treks. Many walked for months, sometimes years, their path guided by ancient messianic prophecies. Their unshakable faith was their constant companion and guide. These determined newcomers did much more than just pray and study. They began to build, to create, to transform. New Jewish neighborhoods started to emerge outside the ancient, cramped city walls. In Jerusalem, this expansion was particularly notable, easing overcrowding. They also courageously ventured into the challenging field of agriculture. They possessed a profound desire to work the soil of their ancestors. This was more than just farming, it was a profound act of reconnection. It was about making the barren parts of the land bloom once more, a testament to their enduring bond. Pioneering agricultural settlements like Petah Tikva were born from this spirit. Founded in the year 1878, it earned the hopeful title, Mother of the Moshavot. This endeavor was a bold, almost audacious experiment in self-sufficiency. These early farmers, many unaccustomed to manual labor, faced immense, daunting hardship. Malaria from nearby swamps was a constant threat. Severe drought could wipe out a year's work. Sheer inexperience presented daily challenges. Yet their collective determination remained remarkably strong. This was a form of proto-Zionism, a practical, hands-on love for the land. The bustling city of Tel Aviv would later emerge from similar pioneering spirits. The influx of Jewish immigrants, though initially small, brought new energy. It carried with it precious capital and innovative ideas. These settlers were not merely seeking a safe refuge. They were driven by a powerful aim to develop the land. They made significant investments in agriculture, introducing new crops and techniques. They courageously started small workshops and fledgling factories. Construction projects, modest at first, began to dot the landscape. This marked the beginning of a period of quiet yet persistent transformation in certain areas of Palestine. The land was slowly stirring. This early development was not an isolated phenomenon. It created an important ripple effect throughout the local economy. New farms needed laborers to till the soil and harvest crops. Building sites required skilled and unskilled workers. Small, emerging industries sought capable hands. Suddenly, there were jobs, new possibilities for earning a livelihood. These were economic opportunities that, for the most part, had not existed before in such measure. The traditional economic landscape of Palestine slowly started to shift and diversify. This change, while gradual, was palpable in and around the areas of Jewish settlement. Word of these new employment prospects began to spread. It traveled beyond the administrative borders of Ottoman Palestine. Arab workers from neighboring lands were increasingly drawn in by this economic magnet. Significant numbers came from Syria and Lebanon to the north. Others arrived from Egypt to the south. Some Transjordanian Arabs also crossed the river seeking work. They were, in essence, economic migrants. They sought a better, more stable livelihood for themselves and their families. This often overlooked Arab immigration is a key, integral part of the region's complex demographic story during this period. Areas experiencing Jewish settlement and investment began to buzz with new activity. Compare this for a moment to other parts of Ottoman Palestine. Many regions away from these centers remained relatively sleepy and less developed. The economic dynamism was noticeably concentrated. It tended to follow the patterns of Jewish capital, land purchase, and enterprise. This contrast between developed and undeveloped areas is important to note. It helps to explain the internal and external population movements that characterize this era. People naturally moved towards opportunity and growth. What was Ottoman Palestine truly like before these gradual changes took hold? You know, many European and American travelers recorded their impressions. Mark Twain, in The Innocents Abroad, famously wrote of its desolation in parts. The land was generally described as underpopulated for its size. Large tracts of potentially fertile land lay uncultivated for various reasons. Extensive swamps, particularly in coastal plains and valleys, were common. Barren, rocky hills dominated much of the interior. This was the prevailing scene encountered by many in the mid to late 19th century. It was a quiet, somewhat empty, and underdeveloped land. The Ottoman Empire's own records regarding population were not always precise or consistently kept. However, official government correspondence and the reports from foreign consuls do paint a revealing picture. These documents often spoke of the pressing need for further development. They frequently noted the sparse population in many potentially productive areas. The inherent potential of the land was clear to observant eyes. Yet, for a multitude of historical and economic reasons, it remained largely untapped. This was the general context into which the new waves of Jewish immigrants arrived and began their work. The period of the British Mandate, which began after World War I, brought more systematic data collection. Official census figures were meticulously collected by the authorities. Numerous demographic and economic studies were conducted. This wealth of new data showed a very significant and sustained rise in the Arab population. This growth was particularly strong and noticeable. It consistently occurred in those specific areas and districts where Jewish communities were also growing and investing. This strong geographical correlation is quite striking. It clearly demands a careful and thorough explanation. So, where did this considerable Arab population growth primarily originate? It was not solely the result of natural increase, meaning births outpacing deaths. Immigration from outside Palestine was a major contributing factor. Furthermore, the improved economic conditions, largely spurred by Jewish enterprise and capital, supported larger families. Better healthcare, albeit rudimentary by modern standards, also played a role. British officials themselves, in their mandate reports, noted this significant influx of Arabs from neighboring territories. This pattern of migration is a crucial, documented historical fact that adds complexity to the demographic narrative. The land often called Israel or Palestine possesses an extraordinarily long and layered history. A succession of many powerful empires has ruled over it through the millennia. The formidable Romans were here, leaving their mark everywhere. Then came the Christian Byzantines, who built churches and monasteries. Various Islamic caliphates such as the Umayyads, Abbasids, and Fatimids held sway for centuries. The European Crusaders arrived and established their short-lived kingdoms. The Mamluks of Egypt followed them, ruling until the Ottoman conquest. This rich, diverse history is exceptionally complex. It certainly cannot be reduced to a single simple claim. The Ottoman Turks from Anatolia ruled the region for 400 continuous years. Their dominion lasted from 1517 until their defeat in 1917 during the First World War. Their empire was vast, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious. Palestine, as a geographical entity, was a relatively small part of this sprawling state. It was not administered as a single unified province for much of this time. Instead, it was typically divided into several administrative districts or sanjaks. These were often attached to larger provincial centers like Damascus or Beirut. This political context is frequently forgotten, but is vital for understanding the period accurately. During this long Ottoman period, and indeed before it, no independent Arab state called Palestine existed. The land was always part of larger imperial structures. The specific idea of an exclusive Arab political claim to the entirety of Palestine is a relatively modern concept, largely emerging in the 20th century. For centuries, the land was home to a mosaic of diverse peoples. Jewish communities, Christian denominations of many kinds, and Muslims of various schools lived here. Smaller groups like the Druze and later the Baha'is also established communities. It was a true mosaic of cultures, not a monolith. Consider the important aspect of town founding during this specific era, from 1800 to 1948. Many new Jewish towns and agricultural villages were established. We have already mentioned Petah Tikva. Others include Rishon LeZion, Zikron Yaakov, and Rehovot, to name a few. Tel Aviv, founded in 1909, grew to become the first modern, all-Jewish city. In stark contrast, very few, if any, major new Arab towns were founded during this same period. Existing Arab villages certainly grew, some substantially due to factors we've discussed. However, the dynamic of founding entirely new large urban settlements was primarily a feature of Jewish endeavor at this time. So, what is the real, multifaceted story of this land? It is certainly not a simple one, easily summarized. It is fundamentally a story of deep, enduring Jewish roots. It speaks of an unbroken, continuous presence despite all adversities. It reflects a profound, age-old yearning for return among diaspora Jews. This powerful connection was demonstrably true for centuries before the State of Israel was established in 1948. It is also, undeniably, a story of Arab life in the land. And significantly for our discussion, it includes a crucial chapter about Arab migration, much of which was tied to the new economic opportunities that arose. Why does this specific history matter so very much in our present day? It matters because today's deeply entrenched conflicts are often fueled and sustained by competing narratives. Some of these narratives are, regrettably, incomplete. Some can even be actively misleading. The widely circulated idea that Palestine was an exclusively Arab land for millennia, and that Jews were merely foreign colonizers arriving recently, is one such problematic narrative. This interpretation largely ignores the documented facts of Jewish continuity. It also frequently overlooks the significant Arab immigration that occurred in response to new developments. Acknowledging the full spectrum of historical facts is absolutely crucial for any genuine understanding. Jews are not by any measure recent newcomers to this ancient land. Their connection is profound, spiritual, and continuous, stretching back thousands of years. Arab communities also possess a long and important history in the region. And as we have seen, their numbers grew very significantly from the late 19th century onwards. This growth was partly and significantly due to the economic changes that Jewish settlement and investment helped to bring about. These are not contradictory truths. They are intertwined, integral parts of a single, complex past. Understanding this full, nuanced picture is truly vital. It allows for more informed, constructive discussion about a difficult subject. It helps us move beyond simplistic sound bites and emotionally charged slogans. The past as ever is always present. Its powerful echoes continue to shape our understanding and our perceptions. To build any kind of better, more peaceful future in this cherished and contested land, all parties must honestly confront the full complexities of what came before. This true, layered story of roots and realities of both Jewish and Arab experiences deserves to be told and to be heard.